It's in the ocean, and the ocean there's always a nice wind coming in the ocean. So the question is, what is the status with such a sukkah? The Mishnah said that's good. Mishnah said that it's a kosher sukkah. If you're traveling and you want to have a sukkah for yourself. So the Mishnah says that it's a good sukkah. And the Gemara said yesterday it's a matter of dispute. You want to have wrong. The Gemara said it's a matter of dispute between two rabbis, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara actually brought a story that they were on a boat, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Gamliel, and Rabbi Akiva got up and he made a sukkah. We're on a boat, we're traveling, it's in the holiday of Sukkah. He built the sukkah on the boat. And they were traveling, and the next day, the wind came, and it knocked out the sukkah. So Rabbi Gamliel said to him, Akiva, where is your sukkah? You see, look what happened, your sukkah's gone. And but Rabbi Akiva felt that, you know what? It's a good sukkah as long as the sukkah lasts, the sukkah. It's true. The wind might knock down the sukkah. But every moment the sukkah is still here. It still has this, it's still called a sukkah. And the Gemara clarifies the.
And if in fact the sukkah is uprooted by the wind, it continues to be, and then it attempted to put back into place, or sometimes you can redo it. It's still good.
Right. Once you put once every kiva, you just have to go build the sukkah again.
Right.
Just like when there's a hurricane and the hurricane knocks out a sukkah, you have to go ahead and rebuild the sukkah. So the Gemara on 23a1 on the first column, Abaye is going to explain what is
Page
the 23a1. Abaye is going to explain what is the case of the machlokeh. What's the case? What type of wind are we talking about that's blowing? Really, the question is, how well will the sukkah do on certain types of winds? So what does the Gemara say? So the Gemara says, Amar Abaye, the Kuli Alma, everybody agrees. Heicha de'ena yechola la'amud b'ruach masiyah de'abosha. If you made a wind, then 23a1 is the test. If you made a sukkah that was not able to go ahead and withstand the normal wind in dry land, right? There's a wind, it's a little wind, there's a certain normal level of wind. And you made that type of sukkah on the boat. Now the question, and as long as it didn't blow yet, that wind, now obviously the wind is going to knock down the sukkah. But if the wind didn't blow yet, the fact that the sukkah is made in a way that you can't deal with a regular wind, that's not a kosher sukkah. If you build a sukkah, let's say on dry land, not on a boat, you build a sukkah, and you know that the sukkah is made out in a way, the walls of the sukkah, the walls and the schach, they're not going to stand if there's a normal wind comes. Is that sukkah kosher up to the time that the wind came? The Gemara says that would not be a kosher sukkah. Now, why not? Because it didn't have a potential to remain standing. And now the question is why by the fact that it didn't have potential validated? So Rashi says it's not even considered a temporary dwelling. Not even temporary. Temporary in view. If you know in 1 minute, it's not gonna. Any wind could come. You're not dwelling anywhere. You're still outside, so to speak. It's like you're outside. You didn't create it. It's not a dira. It's not a dwelling. That's how Rashi understands. Others, Rav Avram Menahor, he understands is that he also says it's invalid, but he understands that it's not a wall. The issue here is it's not walls. The trouble is a wall, the definition, a sukkah needs 3 walls. To be considered a wall, you have to be able, wall is something that protects, that creates some sort of protection. If you can't withstand a normal wind, that's not called a wall. It's not a wall. That is his understanding of the Gemara. Right, but let's say you could, everybody, every engineer will tell you, every person will tell you, this is the wind's gonna come, it's gonna knock it over. But if the wind didn't come in, it's like it's like put empty can of soda, an empty can in the on the floor. You can know if a wind comes, whether the wind's gonna blow the can or not. So that the Coke test, right? Pepsi challenge, right? So the Gemara says, "Ki pligi." Where's the argument? It's able to withstand a normal wind if the sukkah was on dry land. So the structure of these walls were technically, these are walls, because if these walls would be on dry land, it would be a wall. It would be able to withstand a normal wind. But the question here is, when you place these walls not on dry land, you place these walls on a boat. And now if it get a normal wind of the boat will knock down the sukkah.
This is not provided that the boat is stopped, it's not trapped.
I mean, even if the boat would be traveling.
It would be a kosher.
So there's the opinion would say it would still be kosher. And so
they're giving the criteria of what is acceptable.
Right. So he's saying, and that's why Rabbi Akiva made such a sukkah. Rabbi Akiva on the boat, he made a sukkah. The wind came, knocked down the sukkah. But until the wind came, he got a sukkah. Because these are walls. If these walls were, if I call you up and say, is this a wall? It's a wall. If this would be on dry land, it's a wall. But the only thing is, this wall here is on the boat. So do we say, number one, you know what, do you look at the location? And if its location, it wouldn't serve as a wall, good wall. It wouldn't withstand the wind. That means it's lost the status of a wall. Well, do you say the fact that it's a wall on dry land, it's a wall? You built a sukkah with walls. So that's the question. How do you understand this sukkah with walls that could withstand the wind on dry land, but they cannot withstand the wind in the ocean? Is it considered walls? And also, is it considered a place of living? Do you say, as long as the wind didn't come, it's a place of living? We call it a place of living. Or do you say, the fact is, if the wind comes, it's going to knock it down. It's not called even a place of living. The commentaries, are grappling with the idea is if you know that this sukkah that you made on a boat is going to, normal wind is not going to knock it down, is it really called a place of living? If you know, I mean, that's what they're going to grapple with. I mean, the wind comes. On the other hand, this is called, it's called a place of living. I created a dira, I created a place, but which would work on dry land, but it's not going to work over here. So that's what the Gemara says. Ki pligi yechol alamu baruch masui basha. It could withstand a normal wind of dry land. It can't withstand the uncommon wind of dry land. The uncommon wind of dry land equals the common wind of the ocean. A structure that can't handle on dry land an unusual wind can't handle a regular wind on the boat. So that's the question. Good morning, Jaime.
Good morning.
We are on 23A1. We are discussing a sukkah made on a boat. And is a sukkah made on a boat kosher or not? The Mishnah says it's kosher. And the Gemara brought a dispute about that. So some say a sukkah on a boat is not kosher. And the Gemara says, what's the case that the sukkah is not kosher? And the Gemara says there's an argument from Gamliel or Rabbi Akiva, depending on how strong the structure is. Everybody would agree, if you make a sukkah on a boat and the sukkah is able to withstand the normal winds of the sea, it's a kosher sukkah. The issue here is if the made a sukkah on a boat, and these walls that you made, this enclosure that you made on the boat with the schach, would have been able, if you would transplant it to dry land, it would serve as a good sukkah. But here on the boat, it's not going to be able to withstand the winds of the ocean. Does that make it invalid sukkah the whole time, and it's not kosher even when until the wind came, it's not kosher? Or is it kosher as long as the wind didn't knock it down? So that's what the Gemara says. So the Gemara says, sukkah diret kevabinan. A sukkah has to be something that has more permanence to it. Something that could just be knocked down, like he held that a sukkah has to be a little wider. That's what the Gemara connected. If you hold a sukkah, it needs to be a diras keva, more of a permanent thing. It has to be a little wider structure. Can't be such a small little structure. And because it has to be more of a
right. It has to be. You can't. If it was
vulnerable.
If it had the capacity originally to be stable, then if it loses it because it becomes windy, it's still good. Because
right, because it had the ability to withstand the wind. But here, it has the ability to withstand the wind of normal wind on dry land, but it would not be able to withstand the normal wind of an ocean, and it's on the ocean. So now the question is, do we look at it that, okay, if you look at the location where you are now, it wouldn't be able to do the trick for your location. It's subjective to your location, or is it subjective to the normal place that a sukkah is made? A normal place that a sukkah is made is on dry land. And this structure that you made on the boat would work on dry land. So now does it say, but you say, okay, it's not going to work over here? But you can say, no, it does work here, as long as the wind didn't come and knock it down. And that's what Kiva held. Kiva says, you know what, as long as the wind doesn't come, I'm good. I gained a lot by making the sukkah on the boat. I'm taking a risk, but it's win-win risk. Meaning, because every second I'm in a sukkah, every moment you stay in a sukkah, you get a mitzvah. Right? I mean, it's brought down. You should schmooze, have conversation in sukkah. Of course, it should be a more productive type of conversation. You should try not to just talk things that are just. Okay, if it's raining, you're exempt. If the rain comes in enough that it's going to type of rain that you would not, if it would happen in your house, you would move out of that area. Then you have no mitzvah. There's no mitzvah to stay in the sukkah if the rain is pouring down. A little drizzle you stay in, that's not going to really bother you. But if it's a deep, strong rain, then you have no mitzvah. Then the mitzvah of sukkah is not, you don't have, and really it says it's a bad sign that you lose the mitzvah, right? Because even though you're exempt from the mitzvah, I have no mitzvah when it's raining and it's pouring down, but at the end of the day, I wasn't obligated because it was raining, but at the end of the day, I lost I wasn't given the opportunity. So we have a person has to ask himself that the fact that Hashem made it rain, who made it rain? Hashem made it rain. It's not a good siman. It's not a good sign when it rains and you lose the opportunity. Yes, Mr. Matesh, you want to say something? I'm sorry. So that's what we have to understand. So Rabbi Gamliel Sava Sukkah's there is caravan. It has to be something more of a permanent type of a structure. It should resemble your house a little more, and your house does not fall down in its location by a normal wind. So therefore, if you created the sukkah on the boat that's going to fall down by a normal wind in its location of the boat, it's not a kosher sukkah. You would have to fortify the sukkah exactly on the boat that is wind resistant, that the normal winds of the ocean would not knock it down. But if a non-normal wind knocks it down, it would be, if it could resist a normal wind, but it can't resist a not normal wind, it's a kosher sukkah. It doesn't have to, just like any sukkah that maybe any sukkah you build in your backyard, if the criteria would be as long as it could withstand a normal wind. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. So the Gemara, but that's the opinion of now. So the Gemara says, if it can't withstand the normal wind of the ocean, Gamliel says, then it's lav klumu. It's nothing. It's not a sukkah. It's not even a temporary dwelling. However, Rabbi Akiva says, sukkah dira raibina. The whole essence of a sukkah, it's a temporary dwelling, right? A sukkah, it's bamboo sticks. It's a temporary type of dwelling. It's not a permanent dwelling. Look at the size. Who makes a dwelling 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim? It's like 28 inches by 20 inches with a height of 40 inches. That's not a normal type of dwelling. It's a temporary dwelling. That's the type of dwelling you make when you're on the move and you're stopping by somewhere. It's not being that's the case. So if you made this sukkah on the boat that could withstand the winds of the dry land, that you met the criteria of a temporary dwelling. And since you met the criteria of a temporary dwelling, it's good. The sukkah is kosher as long as the wind didn't knock it down. That's the opinion of Akiva. Kiva Sava, and it would withstand the wind on dry land. So the type of structure I made is a structure that would be identified as would work on dry land. It's considered a proper structure on dry land, so it's good enough here for in the boat. Like we said, the commentaries question that. It's true. It's a good enough. It would last on dry land, but it's not going to last here. So why, that's what they're grappling. Why, by the fact that it would work on dry land, does it help for it on? Okay, so the Gemara Kiva Sava Sukkah Dir. We need a temporary, and it's supposed to be a temporary dwelling. Since it could withstand a common wind of dry land, it is kosher. You should know the concept of sukkah dira darai, that a sukkah is supposed to be a temporary dwelling. Therefore, we say really ideally you're supposed to make a sukkah in a way that the rain should be able to. So make a sukkah in a way that the rain should be able to come through, right? You don't make that's how you make a sukkah in a way. But you need you need to have a nice amount of schach, but we make it in a way that we don't make it in a way that rain can't come through. The idea of a sukkah also represents, Moshe Feinstein says, that this world is temporary. When we go out to the sukkah, we're supposed to remember that because the sukkah, what time of the year is the mitzvah of sukkah? Time of the year of sukkah is a time, it's called the Chag HaAsif. We gather in the produce. We planted, we plowed, we planted, we harvested, we let the stuff out to dry, we left it out there, and now we're bringing in the food. Bringing in the food is like, now it's like you're bringing the stuff into the bank. You're bringing the money into the bank. You're bringing into the storage houses. At that time, a person might becomes comfortable that until you have everything, you're concerned, you pray, I need help, but now that you got it, you might sometimes forget. That's where a person is vulnerable to maybe forget about the fact that that this world is temporary. He might get caught up in all the money that he just brought in, and therefore that's the time of the year Hashem says, I want you to leave the house. I want you to leave the house, go into a structure which is temporary. What you see, you can't. The ceiling is made out of bamboo. It's made out of certain types of material. You can't use metal as your material for your ceiling. That's makabel tumah. It's permanent. It's So therefore, that's also a lesson that people, when we go outside to the element, we go outside in Sukkah, supposed to remind the people that this world is not forever. The same way that the actual Sukkah is a temporary dwelling, person's life is also 120 years, and therefore is temporary. And therefore, if they recognize and remember that's temporary, they should use their time in a positive, in a proper way, recognizing that there's a limit, it's temporary. Okay. The Gemara says, Ala Gama Gama. We said if you made a sukkah on top of a camel, if you make a sukkah on top of a camel, we say that the sukkah is kosher. And there's different opinions exactly how did you make the sukkah on top of the camel. Tosfos suggests, let's say you had 4 posts, and you made the animal as the floor meaning you would put the animal in between the 4 posts, and on top of the 4 posts you placed schach, but the ground of the sukkah is going to be the animal. You're going to go up on the animal, and that's going to be your ground. And you have a sukkah, and they put walls, and he put schach, but the animal is your ground. Is your ground for the sukkah. That's how Tosfos explains.
That's acceptable.
So the Mishnah says that's an acceptable sukkah. That's what the Mishnah says. But the only problem is you can't use it on Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, you can't go on top of animals on Yom Tov. So you can't ride animals on Yom Tov. You can't be on top of the animal. That's Tosfos' explanation. Others will explain that you actually, what'd you say? So others explain you actually put, Rashi says you put let's say the mechitzot, put the doors on the animal. Let's say you put the two horses together, and you put the walls actually on the animal itself, and or what do you do? Rashi said like this. Rashi says, according to the way Tosfos brings it, you put doors on top of. Let's say you take 2 horses. Take 2 horses, put them next to each other, put a door flat on top of the back of the animals, and then you go in on top of that, and that becomes the floor of the sukkah, the door that's on top of the back of the animals, and then you put walls, and then you made the walls, and then you put the schach on top. That's a pretty temporary, it's a real temporary type of. Okay, so let's look how the Gemara is going to discuss if this type of the Gemara is going to say that this is not a universal opinion. The Gemara is going to, and we'll see tomorrow more about a sukkah on top of the back of the animal. I want to wish everyone a beautiful day, and we'll be back tomorrow. Looking forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.